Let's talk about the midbrain and the brainstem. The brainstem is what connects the brain to the spinal cord. It is what you see here, the green, the red, and the purple. The midbrain is the top part of the brainstem. The pons and the medulla make the rest of the brainstem. They are supplied by the basilar and the vertebral arteries, which go through your C-spine, which is your neck, which is why we advise against chiropractic manipulations because they can dissect those arteries, leading to issues with brainstem function and higher cortical function. So, what is the purpose of the midbrain and the brainstem? So, the midbrain, the top part of the midbrain has the substantia nigra, which we see deterioration in Parkinson's disease. It has your dopamine pathways. It's important for movement and smooth movement. The midbrain also has a lot of motor fiber, so that helps you move. The midbrain goes down to the pons. The pons have pontine fibers, which are also very helpful for movement, conscious and unconscious movements. The pons also connect to the cerebellum by the pontocerebellar fiber, so they help with coordination. Below the pons, you have your medulla, which is important for respirations, heart rate, blood pressure, other things that you don't have to think about and that involuntarily just happen. The brainstem also has your cranial nerves, which are important for function. They dictate things such as vision, taste, tongue movements, facial nerves, which are important for your facial movements, your vestibulocochlear nerves, which are important for hearing, taste. Everything basically is dictated by your brainstem and your cranial nerves. Your vagus nerve also is helpful for a lot of involuntary things. So basically, your brainstem is a very important piece of real estate. Not shown here, but in the back of your brainstem, you have something called a reticular activating system, which is really important for conscious and subconscious, which is why one of the pathologies of the brainstem is if you've had a brainstem stroke or a dissection to one of the blood supplies, you actually can't have hypoxic injury to your midbrain, which means you have higher cortical function, but you have no brainstem function. Now, what does that? That means you can retain awareness, and your higher cortical functions are working, which means your lobes of your brain are working, your cerebral cortex is working, but you have no way of sending signals from the brain to the spinal cord. You can't react. Depending on what your reticular activating system is doing, you're either conscious or subconscious. This is what we see a lot in sometimes coma patients, sometimes brain death patients, other times in patients that we think are no longer with us, but they actually are. They just can't react because their brainstem is not intact. This is actually a very debilitating and very sad condition. We call it locked in syndrome. So that's one of the pathologies of the brainstem and also why your brainstem is super important.